Hi everyone, I think I should be working now. I had a little problems with my internet connection, of course, just before the Ask Me Anything session. So let's see what kind of questions have been submitted to me. And I hope everyone is here and can hear me fine. Maybe I should move the microphone a bit near. So from what I can tell, you can see me. And yeah, if you have any questions, write them in the chat and I will have a look at them. But first, for starters, I will just continue with the questions which have been sent to me. And yeah, I got one last question in the evening. And yesterday evening, and it was this one will answer. It's the last one. It's about how I use AI for creating some stuff like in my end for me. And it's yeah. Until yesterday evening, I would say I wouldn't have used AI for creating SQL commands or documenting them, but this has changed, and maybe some of you already have seen my blog, my post on LinkedIn about it. I will create a blog post also about it, but yeah, let's start first with these questions. Okay, the first one is quite an easy one. Yeah, how did I start my journey with WEBCON? A little bit background of mine here. I started with developing the Microsoft ERP system, Dynamics Nav in the past. There was some kind of special group in there, in which we've communicated with external systems. And this was also the time when SharePoint was the first SharePoint version has been released. And after I had enough of Dynamics Nav, or how it's called today, Business Central, I switched to SharePoint development. And yeah, we did a lot of customization for SharePoint, and it just always a problem that SharePoint isn't a real database. And yeah, I'm not sure how often I've cursed that I had to work with SharePoint, but yeah, we made some good solution on it nevertheless. But then we hit the regulated industry and we needed a better solution, which is more reliable and which is less error prone and just has a lot of governance built in. Yeah, and that's how colleague met WEBCON on a SharePoint conference. And yeah, when I've seen WEBCON the first time, I just give it a try, and yeah, what I can tell, I'm not sure how often I said, oh, if I would have developed something, I would have done it like this. These are, yeah, just those little info icons which are also all in the designer studio, or the way that you can, for example, disable the emails that no one receives any emails, and just some nice little things which makes it really easy for developers to use WEBCON. Yeah, that's how I started my journey with WEBCON. Now let's come to the first question. What are the best practices for guiding end users within a WEBCON BPS application? Particularly in terms of in-app documentation and user assistance. There's not too much I can say about it. At least there's the standard options, of course, that you have a consistent layout, which helps a lot. Like if you set for something that you have roles in my process, I will just show you what I mean with this. If I now can, I've placed the link in my notes, but I can't open the link. Now I have to search for it. Let's give me a moment. Of course, it has happened now. Let's see. T. Let's see whether I can now access. What I wanted to show. Yeah, it's not quite that's what I wanted to show, but we will make do with it. Let's change my screen. So now you should see WEBCON. Yeah, something's not right with my environment. What do I mean with a consistent layout? For example, I don't know if I have any process where I don't have something like roles in there. Who's responsible, who created it, and what other kinds of roles are inside these processes. And of course, I can place them somewhere in a tab or at the bottom, but I prefer to place those roles here on the far right so that they are always visible and the users can always see what they are up to. And yeah, I'm also missing something else right now, which I prepared, but I lost due to the missing link. Is info. I mean these info icons with tooltips which you can define for each field, in addition to the task descriptions and step description, which can really help the user to go through it. And of course, you can also nice. Okay, let's forget about my environment, which is currently broken. You can also add some notes to the designer workflow diagram, which will also help in seeing what's going on. And of course, if you're running 25, you can make use of the phases and actors, which have been added. So let's see. Here we can create a node. Also put some documentation in here. But this is basically everything when it comes to options which we have in the standard or which WEBCON offers by default. And of course, yes, have a consistent meaning of path, position, and colors. I, for my part, use if something goes back or is negative, or if something is negative or avoids a workflow instance, then I always use a red color. And if something goes back, I use a orange color and move the path on the left. And if it continues, it's green, and it goes to is on the right of all the paths. And of course, yeah, if you know my blog, then I've added something else. I've created once a help page. Let's switch again. Which can be opened in modal. Do I have some screenshots in here? Oh, this is just my blog post. Damn. Okay. Let's move through the video. And here in this blog post, I've created a help page which can be displayed, on which the user can click and see some kind of documentation for a given step, so that the user here here's a help page icon, which is rendered if there's any help page for the given step, on which the user can click. And this would also be one way to provide some documentation. But of course, this is customized. In this case, I used some Word documents which can easily be added in a dictionary, and then the user can open these. These can be defined per step in workflow, and yeah, that would be one way. Another type of guidance is, I called it graphical cues. You see it here, maybe, and some others. And for example, I always have some kind of problems identifying the business entities. If you're working with multiple business entities, then you could think of highlighting, having different colors for them in the report and in the forms, so that you can really distinguish which is which. And if you're working with multiple databases, for example, in your developments, this could also be one option to output the current database in there. But what I've also done is, where is this? I have, for example, often a parent workflow with sub-workflows in there, and you could place some HTML in the parent workflow so that if the user clicks on the parent workflow and doesn't notice that the notice is or isn't aware that its parent workflow is waiting for and isn't knowledgeable about the process, you could inform him that there's something ongoing here and that's the reason why this doesn't move forward. I've created some custom user icon for this, or you could use a standard icon. So yes, work with graphics, work with HTML fields to show a user whether something is possible to do. Let me check you another example. I'll have to look for another example we've done for a customer. One moment. Okay. Templates, for example. Here's also something which cannot be changed. Yeah. That's also an option, just working with these kind of HTML fields to place some information if the user can't do something. And yeah, of course, the breadcrumb helps a lot in guiding the user, and modal dialogues will help the user to not get lost in some kind of sub-workflows and sub-workflows. If you have a parent workflow and create tasks from a modal dialogue, it's a very different user experience than open a new form, saving it, refreshing the browser completely and going back to the parent workflow. It just really makes a difference. And of course, these are just more like user experience stuff and not a little bit less of guidance, but yeah, it makes it easier for the user to follow the workflow. And something what I added to here is this missing comment handler, just because I really like it, and not just get this error message, oh, you've forgotten to enter the comment, just enter the comment in the error description and then continue. Thanks, Arno. I think you have been referring to the help page. Yes, it was a nice idea, and yeah, but actually it was only an idea we have. Don't use it in production environment. No one wanted to do the documentation right now, but it's an easy way which can be done. But unfortunately, I'm not sure whether it's still working for 25. I have to check it out. WEBCON BPS has a lot of schedules, yeah. And do I have any best practices for configuring them? Yeah, in general, I would say take time zones into account, especially if you are working in projects with different time zones in there. For example, like we have a project which is for a customer who's located in Germany and use the USA. Then you have to adjust the schedules accordingly so that some schedules run when everyone is sleeping, or at least most of them. And not just if you're going, for example, like doing something at 12 o'clock in the morning in Germany, there could still be some people working in the USA. And aligned with database backups, what I mean with this is, if you're doing daily database backups and not just transactional backups, you should think about whether all these schedules should have been processed before the backup or after the backup, so that these the schedules, which are also doing some cleanups, which I will cover later, won't be just interfering with the database backup, so that we really get a backup with either a cleared up database or without a cleared up database with all the data from the last day before. But let's go to the schedules which we have. We have the user synchronization. I typically set up full synchronization for once a week and incremental every 3 hours, which is fine for in our cases. Yeah, I have for some customers with a really small user group and Active Directory, we even decided to do the full sync every day, and just so quick. In our case, incremental sync already takes 6 or 7 minutes because of too many entities in Microsoft Entra. And it's, yeah, takes some time. But this is what I can tell you regarding the user synchronization. And yeah, what you have to think of is if you have the active user synchronization, don't forget to user synchronization. Decide whether you want to synchronize pictures or not. From Microsoft Entra, you have to actively enable this to do this. Night hours. What are night hours? Yes, I've described it as night hours are used to offload some comments, some processing to hours in which the system is less used. We can decide that timers are only executed in night hours, and that archiving of workflow instances happens in night hours based on the priority. I think priority 1 is right away, and priority 10 is only during the night hours. What you need to know or think about is the deletion of workflow instances is also part of the archiving action. And if you don't set up night hours, the workflows won't be deleted. They will just be sitting there, and you have the report option, cancel, archive workflow instances queue. And yeah, I'm not sure about these ones. Priority 11, some kind of issue. No, they haven't been processed. But yeah, if you don't have night hours defined, then this list will grow, but all the workflow instances won't be deleted. So yeah, even if you don't think you need to do something in the night hours, like create a lot of workflow instances on a daily basis or so, then that you don't need, and you don't think you don't need to create night hours, think of this one that if you're going to delete workflow instances, you need night hours too. Or this will check whether night hours are defined. Yeah, and we are typically using 12 to 4 a.m. at least in our non-USA related environments. In case of the USA, we have decided to use 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. It's a small, brief window, but it's for the moment it's enough. Then we have the database maintenance. Cleans up the database, yeah. Should be, because then there's quite a good example what it actually does. In the blue info icon, which I've mentioned in the beginning, yeah, you have a whole overview what's going to be cleaned up. If a specific threshold is exceeded, like 100,000 elements and at least 30 days ago. If it's done on a regular basis, then it should be just fine. So standard cleanup time of half an hour. And again, this can be defined to offload the processing and deletion of those records to the 2 hours where there's less user interaction. Then there's one last schedule, the service hours. Yeah, and this is more or less equivalent to stopping the workflow service, which means that even if the workflow service itself is running, you can't access the system or work with the system. The license server seems to be down, no timers will be executed, etc. And yeah, this is mainly used for if the database is not accessible, so that there are less errors in the event log. And if you've actually run into the issue that you've configured service hours during a time when you need to access WEBCON, you can only change this if you access the Designer Studio in admin access and then change the hours and afterwards restart the service. Because while the services hours are active, you can't interact with the service from the Designer Studio. And you need to have the admin access because the license service isn't active. Yes, I've run into this, but yeah, only because I've wanted to do something late in the evening. And now we are going to some more theoretical experience because, yeah, this question is for the new reporting options, which we have in 25R2 to show the reports in the form. And I have to say, yeah, we didn't even have yet installed a machine with R2. We are currently too busy with customer setups and environments where we need to deploy our solutions from our systems to the customers. And yes, so this is going to be some time until we install R2. And from my perspective, it's a simplification. We could already do it. We had the HTML field, and I've used it to render a report in a form. It could have also been some kind of dashboard, some kind of diagram, or just a table report. And the only case where I actually used it was that I had a parent workflow again with a lot of sub-workflows, displayed a report in the parent workflow, and activated the option to download the attachments in the report itself. So the user could open the parent workflow instance and select which attachments, from which sub-workflows the attachment should be downloaded and combined into the package. I still have this on my to-do list for a blog post to show how we've done it. And I've used here an HTML field with a URL and passed here some information from the form fields and the workflow instance ID. And I assume, while I had to do this inside the HTML fields, you can do this also with a new report field to filter some specific information. But yeah, actually, I also don't know any kind of real-world scenarios where I'm using that. I have to admit, I also don't make use of the widgets to display some gorgeous in the workflow forms. Maybe these are just some use cases I haven't encountered yet. Which could be due to the fact that we are more or less focused on the QM workflows there and less on finance stuff or budgeting or project management. I'm not sure whether they could have some gorgeous. Let's go to the next one. This is also something from a theoretic, which I can only answer from a theoretical point of view. What can we use AI features for? I would really use them for the prototype creation in the designer desk, especially if they will be improved to add to process some kind of documents that would be, or images, that would be great. And of course, for providing translations. This will also be really nice and helpful. You've got a lot of applications which have to be translated to, I have to admit, German, because we start really developing our applications in English, as we are a multilingual company and we have multilingual customers, so we are starting with English and then are translating back to German. But German is not the only language. We have also some customers who are using French and Spanish. And at the moment, the customer is doing the translations using the designer desk options, which have been added in 23, so they can do the translations from the BPS portal. But this will really help. And then, of course, we have these text generation option and a summary options to to generate text based on some prompts or information, or get a summary of documents and information. Yeah, this will depend. I'm not sure how much I would trust those. If it's just a generation of text and there's nothing critical in there, that will be fine. But I won't go so far that I would make decisions based on the results in there. I would always have to think of our contract management here, where we can define risk, or where I can have a contract and I want to get all the differences and possible risks which are hidden in the contract. And I currently don't trust AI to really think that AI will figure out all the risks which are in the contract. There could really be something hidden in there which can hurt us really bad. Some kind of that's just a personal feeling. I just don't trust AI. I like it for text generation and so on, where I go over it and where I just start with 50 or 60, 70% of the generated text, and then I will do the remaining percentages, continue from there. But I will do the same here with the risks to see if there's anything else. And I think from a partner perspective and also from an IT department perspective, the prototype creation is really what will set us apart and makes really great first impressions on new customers, or even, of course, business departments inside the company who haven't worked with WEBCON yet. Yeah, you are right, Arno. And then it comes to, the final question in here, which is, do I use AI while writing platform-specific SQL or HTML or JavaScript? Yes, and if you know my stuff, you know that I'm doing quite a lot of changes, modifications, user experience stuff in WEBCON BPS using HTML and JS, and for sure I'm using here VS Code. Which will really help us and help me. In the past, you can see it on here, breadcrumb, colorized paths, custom tab logic, full screen, Gantt, whole stuff of JavaScript I've created over the past. And with AI, I'm using VS Code, of course, for syntax highlighting, and therefore I'm using GitHub Copilot. I haven't used anything else because I really want to integrate it in my development environment. And so I can't tell much about anything else. But what I can tell, and what I've mentioned in here with SQL, I haven't used it for SQL until yesterday evening. And then I started playing around a bit, and I think it can do some great stuff. Arno, this code library I've shown to you that's public. That's on my GitHub repository. Everything and most of the stuff is in my blog post are linked to there. But going back to the SQL. I didn't use it until yesterday, and then I played around with it. And maybe I'll just show it live to you. I hope it's working. I always had the problem that in WEBCON BPS we have more or less a generic database and table, or generic WF elements table, which all the elements and all the workflow instances in there, and generic data column names, so that the AI can't make use of the context. maybe sometimes the title would be in the database column add text 1, sometimes text 2 or text 10. And therefore, I always thought that it wouldn't be possible to do something or use AI for it. But then I played it around yesterday with GitHub Copilot, and let's see if I can do something. Here are some little tests from yesterday. Let's create a new one, new file. Ask me anything, SQL. And what I've provided in here are some kind of instructions. All the form types in an application, all the fields by form type in an application. And in here you see, for example, we have document control with application, we have the process, the form type, sorry, the field, and the database column, the ID, and some other information. And let me see whether I can open a new chat. Or can you create me SQL command which checks whether an application area in a revision, or how often an application area in a revision form type is used. I haven't done something like this. Let's see what's going to do. That's not going to help us here. So this chat doesn't really work well right now. Let's create a new chat here. Add some context, application definition, files and folders, table definitions, add instructions, Copilot instructions. Let's create a new chat. That could be working. Can you replace database column names with variables? Let's see how it looks in the Designer Studio. Here, that's the application area from the correct process. That's the correct form type. Okay, here we shouldn't have a variable, but what do you think? I probably would have been able to do this myself, but yeah, this will probably really get some help improving here. And this was just using AI against WEBCON for creating an SQL statement. Of course, it's not a really complex one, but what I've tested yesterday was also quite nice. Here was a test of a documentation. I've pasted in here the logic which we've created in here. And yeah, I don't know, it really saves time. And okay, can I go back to the previous chat? Oh, maybe I should have created a new one. Yeah, oh, here's the documentation. I asked GitHub Copilot to document this statement or this SQL logic, and yeah, it really explains what it does. Here we see that it's edge to sphere. I'm not sure which one. I think it's this column here. Yeah. Let's make a screenshot in here. No, that's the wrong one. Here we have the process owner, collaborators, process owners, reviewers, and all these have been resolved by providing the context. And it really describes, oh, I wouldn't have needed to look it up because it's already described in here, which fields are there. Yeah, this was the documentation, and it really describes what it actually does. I was really surprised when I got this information. Some other tests I've run get all sign-off workflows, which are sub-workflows of a given workflow. They have often been caused some hallucinations. But yeah, this is how I started with the SQL statement, where I have still the database column names. Then it has been replaced with the variables. And afterwards, I've pasted it to the Designer Studio, and yeah, there have been some, this is not correct, this is right, this is not correct. These are switched. Here's also the wrong field, but it will save time. Creating this and just fixing the variables, that will be quite easy. Yeah, that would be my answer today for whether I would use it for SQL. That I would use it for SQL now too, but I need to do some more testing and experimenting, and I think then I will do publish and describe everything I've got in here in an SQL blog, in a blog post. Here in the scope instruction, I've defined something like the COM ID, which variables are in there, which is the reason why WEBCON knows that this is a current business entity. And here it therefore knows that it knows somehow that here's a filter for the company or business entity. And this one is only used for the first subquery, which is right here. In this case, I really need it from everything, from every workflow instance in here. But the other fields I only needed from the specific company or business entity. Yeah, that's something really nice, and I think I will continue with it, and really when I have more time, do a blog post about it. Okay, that's all about the questions. And if you don't have any questions, then I would say that's all for today. And yeah, I will later on do some update here and post some updates this YouTube video with some chapters in there so that you can really, others can then jump to the correct time in the video. But yes, I will really then, when I have some time, more time, I will continue with this one and publish it, however it will work. But it's, yeah, I really like it, what it's currently doing. So that would be all from my side, and thank you everyone. Have a nice evening. Bye.